People want to drop the pounds that they may have not been able to drop in previous years. And they think, you know what, January 1 is going to be the time when it happens. I'm going to start fresh. Everything's clean slate. When the reality is, without going on a soapbox, the calendar is just a construct of dates and times that are used to make life a little bit easier, and you show up where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. That being said, though, like, you could start August 3rd if you want, right? Doesn't really make a bit of difference when you choose to start. Now, I do want to say, though, if you did choose weight loss and this is your thing, I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to go at it with tenacity, because I want this to be the year that actually you see the result you're looking for.
Welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode.
What is going on? Welcome to this episode of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, and happy 2026. It's really weird. Like, I feel like 2026 is just, I don't know, like you think, 2023, 2024, maybe I'm just not used to saying it yet. I don't know. It feels kind of funky relative to the past few years, but we are here. This year is going to be an amazing one for your blood sugars. I want to ensure that. I want to make that happen. But of course, we've talked about it in the last couple episodes, but we're at that time where you may have set a New Year's resolution. You may be starting a New Year's resolution. You may be thinking about a New Year's resolution. And a very common theme with that would be, drum roll, of course, weight loss. I feel like that's always a topic that comes up in January. People start getting gym memberships. People start looking up different types of diets. People want to drop the pounds that they may have not been able to drop in previous years. And they think, you know what, January 1 is going to be the time when it happens. I'm going to start fresh. Everything's clean slate. When the reality is, without going on a soapbox, the calendar is just a construct of dates and times that are used to make life a little bit easier, and you show up where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. That being said, though, like, you could start August 3rd if you want, right? Doesn't really make a bit of difference when you choose to start. Now, I do want to say, though, if you did choose weight loss and this is your thing, I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to go at it with tenacity, because I want this to be the year that actually you see the result you're looking for. Meaning that this isn't another year where by January 17th, you're already saying, F it, I'm done. I don't care. I'll try again next year. It's fine. I failed. I don't want that to be you, because you may have been in this hamster loop for the last 2, 3, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 plus years of, this is the year I lose the 10 pounds or the 15 pounds or the 40 pounds or whatever it is, right? I want this to be the year it actually happens for you. So a few things to set you up for success. And of course, you should be working with your care team on this. If you do not have a care team, if you don't have a care team that will talk with you about this, my team and I, all our dietitians, all diabetes educators, we all live with the beatus ourselves, and we all have exercise background. So holler at us, yourdiabetiesinsider.com. But that being said, a couple things for you to know going into your weight loss journey, especially as a person living with diabetes. First things first, and this is going to go diabetes or not, it has to be a real calorie deficit. And what I mean by that is, people say, oh, I looked up how many calories to eat online, and I found this calculator and it was great. And then I took 500 off of that number and it was perfect. And I'm eating, 1,200 calories a day. And that is usually a recipe for absolute disaster, like unmitigated, terrible disaster. And you might be like, well, why? That seems pretty standard. Think about it. Right now, especially if you have not been tracking your food, or you haven't been, taking pictures, or you basically have no idea other than carb counting for your meals, you probably don't know your total calorie intake per day. And so to go online and say, oh, this calculator said based on my height and my weight and my activity level that I should be at 2,600, there's a very real chance that you're not even sniffing 2,600. There is also a chance on the other side that you're eating 3,900 and you have no idea. So I think before you jump into anything, and again, I don't care if you have diabetes or not for what I'm saying. Regardless, if you have a weight loss goal or a weight gain goal, but if you have a weight loss goal, you need to get an idea of what your current baseline of food is. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you want to be specific, you have to use data. You can guess, you can use qualitative data. Oh, I think it's this much, but qualitative data does not lead to quantitative results, right? Purple and green and pink and different colors doesn't lead to a number, right? So that being said, I would start planning for a few days. Hey, I'm going to journal my food for a little bit. 4 days, 5 days, a week, something like that, to get a general gist, and include days that are off balance, right? Don't skip the days that you went out to dinner because it's too hard. I want you to challenge yourself, number one, but number two, try to be accurate, because the numbers may or may not surprise you, but they may and likely will surprise you, because you may realize, wow, I just went out to dinner and I just ate 2,700 calories. That's possible. You start adding up the drinks, the dessert, the appetizer, the main course, all the sides, everything else. It can be a lot. And I'm not saying that that's you and that that's suddenly a problem and you should never go out to dinner again. But what I'm saying is a lot of people underestimate fundamentally what they think they're eating. Or you find out on the flip side, these calculators online are overestimating. Because I've seen it on the opposite, where someone says, yeah, I went online to this calculator, I started eating 2,400 calories and I started gaining all this weight, because it's not taking into account what your metabolism is right now. And a lot of people are under eating relative to what they think they should be. So you can use any of the formulas and you realize, oh, I should be eating 2,000 a day. And you find out you're only eating 1,350 per day. That's a massive difference. That is a massive ramification to what your body composition is going to look like. So you have to make sure you have a really good sense of what you're doing. And maybe you say, hey, the first month, I'm just going to log what I'm doing. I'm not going to change anything just yet. And things will, of course, naturally change over time. But you'll get a really good sense of, hey, I've done this for a few days. I have good data that I can use with my care team to help me to figure out what I need to do for my next step to lose weight. That's number one. Number two, this is a diabetes specific one. The insulin is not going to necessarily impact your ability to lose or gain weight. Everyone talks about that. Oh, insulin won't let you lose it. No, cut it right now. I've heard this for years and years and years. Cut it right now. Insulin, however, can lead to low blood sugars if you are not careful. So here's what I mean, right? You have an amazing breakfast. You're super excited. You eat it and you're like, hey, I'm going to go out and do some errands. And you go leave, you start walking around and suddenly your number plummets because you weren't aware of your active insulin. Now you have to eat some calories that you didn't want to eat to raise your blood sugar back up. You feel really lousy. You're trying to get this stuff done, get these errands done. Well, now you're suddenly, oh no, my blood sugar is really, really high because I overdid it. Now you're correcting with insulin to then lower your blood sugar again. You overshoot. You end up on this roller coaster, up and down and up and down and up and down. And every time you're on the low side, you have to eat more calories. Well, suddenly you try to do a calorie deficit. We'll use 500 as an easy common example of 500 per day. You just ate 300 calories worth of low snacks. Now your deficit's only 200 and the scale didn't move. And now you're disappointed and frustrated and you just give up. You have to make sure your blood sugars are on point. And I tell people this all the time. And people that work with our team all the time will say, hey, I want to lose the weight now. And we'll say, we need the blood sugars on point first. This is why. Because if the blood sugars are not on point and you're bouncing up and down and up and down, you're going to destroy your deficit just from low calories. Just from low calories. That's it. From nothing else. Of course, that doesn't even give the wiggle room for, oh, I underdid it, or I overshot at a meal and I had a few extra there. This is just from low calories alone. So you have to make sure you are on point with that. Now, if you're type 2 and you're like, hey, I don't really go low, I don't really have that problem as much, I'm not on insulin, that is a good thing, right? That gives you an advantage there. But on the flip side, it's still so easy to say, oh, I had a little bit here, I had a little bit there, I was grazing, I wasn't portion control. Like that's, again, type 1 or type 2. But the insulin and the blood sugars have to be on point. Because again, with your type 2, blood sugars running higher, some people get hungry just because that's how their body responds. Suddenly, I had some more food, I didn't mean to, you're already hungry from a deficit, boom, there goes the weight loss. So it can start to become this really nasty pattern where your weight stays steady. Some people it drifts up because they are not in a position when they're in a deficit because they're suddenly like, well, I had too much insulin on board. Oh, I didn't take into account my insulin. And this doesn't even factor in the fact that when you're in a calorie deficit, your body becomes more insulin sensitive. So you have a more likely opportunity of going low just because your body's like, well, I need glucose and it's in the blood. That's an easy spot to get it. And it just nabs it straight up, brings it into the cell. And suddenly your blood sugar is 47 while you're trying to sleep, which then great opportunity to just go nuts, overdo it with lows. Boom, done. And we've all been there. If you have type 1 especially, I'm willing to bet you are lying if you say, hey, I've never overtreated a low blood sugar because I felt super hungry. Literally, I think my record, I've mentioned this before, my record was over 2,000 calories in 10 minutes back when I was in undergrad, when I was in college, because I was starving. I was in a super deficit. It was brutal. I believe it was in 2013, which what a time, what a time. It feels so long ago, yet so recent. That being said, though, that's two things, right? So of course, you've got to get your baseline. You've got to know what you're doing calorically before you make any adjustments to it, because you otherwise could be way overshooting or way undershooting, and that sets you up for failure if you don't have a baseline. 2, you have to make sure the blood sugars are on point, but most importantly, they have to be preventing lows. You cannot have lows. Again, everyone's going to have a low periodically. If you do have a low, how can you treat it with the minimum amount of glucose possible? Or use a combination of, if you're on an insulin pump, let the basal rate, it'll turn off if you're on an algorithm pump, right? So let that shift down. take some not calories, take some like tabs or some, carbs, easy, quick carbs, 6 grams, 8 grams, whatever. Let it come back up into range. Patience is your best friend with this. So that's the second thing. You have to be able to prevent the lows. And then numero tres for losing weight with blood sugars is do not feel obligated to make all of your deficit coming from food. It's easier sometimes, but activity can help you with that as well. And physical activity is going to be paramount. You see the studies all the time. Well, if you're exercising, A, you're boosting your insulin sensitivity, but B, you're exercising and your body is suddenly able to retain more muscle mass when you're losing weight. And that is very valid, right? Depending on what you're doing from a nutritional standpoint and exercise standpoint, there have been studies that have shown you can retain way more muscle because on average, the average person, right, you lose about a 3-to-1 ratio of fat to muscle. Because when you lose weight, you're going to lose a little muscle. It's just the nature of the game. But if there was a way for you to lose a 9-to-1 ratio of fat to muscle, I would take that every single time because that would mean for every 10 pounds you lose, 9 of those are fat, 1 pound is muscle. Versus for every 10 pounds you lose, 7.5 would be fat and 2.5 are muscle. You're keeping a lot more muscle in that first example, right? So I would prefer to make it that. So protein, of course, going to be paramount. Fiber going to be paramount. We talked about these. We'll talk about them in the future. But you have to have some sort of activity in there and realize activity is going to be your best friend with respect to helping you increase that calorie deficit in certain instances, right? Because if you're like, hey, I only walk, 3,000 steps a day and you start walking 7,000 steps, that 4,000 step delta, that's a big difference. That is going to allow you to say, hey, I'm now burning a bunch of extra stuff. I may be able to eat a tiny bit more, but still have my deficit there. Now, again, there's adaptations to your body. It's going to get used to it, et cetera. Way outside the scope of this, way more of a personal type of thing and stuff that we go over with our patients. But the bigger thing here is recognizing activity can be your best friend. You should be utilizing it. And there should be a strength component. I know I didn't mention it before, but that goes without saying. There has to be a strength component because your goal is to retain as much muscle as possible. People say they want to lose weight. They're really just saying, I want to lose body fat. They're not saying I want to lose just straight weight. Because I don't know anyone that wants to lose muscle unless you're like trying to become a super endurance athlete and you played football or something, right? Like it's pretty rare. So those are 3 things that you've got to do to successfully drop weight in 2026. And then we've talked about pump technology. We've talked about all those things, but I think with this too is having a strategy. This is very underrated. Having a strategy for when ish hits the fan with your blood sugars. You might be like, well, what does that have to do with weight loss? It has everything to do with weight loss. Think about it, right? If you have a bad site, you forget your injection, right? Something happens where your blood sugar ends up going super, 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 super high. Having the wherewithal to not rage bolus to bring back down into range is going to be huge. Having the wherewithal to stay hydrated is going to be huge. Having the wherewithal to be patient is going to be huge because these are all principles that you are already hopefully exercising for your blood sugars that are going to have to be the same muscles that you're using, literally, but they're mental muscles. These same muscles you're using for diabetes are going to be what leads you to have success with weight loss as well. If you're patient, your blood sugar, let's just say your site goes bad, right? And your blood sugar is 327. You're really frustrated. You correct with an injection. You drink some water. You take some steps. You let it come down. You're not rushing it. You're not taking a ton of insulin. You're not like, come on, come on, come on, come on. It's the same thing with weight loss, right? If you're able to be patient with the blood sugars, knowing that that's not going to be perfect, granted it's acute, but still, it's the same thing with weight loss. You have to say, hey, I am going to do all of these inputs and this output is going to likely occur. And if it doesn't occur right away, it doesn't mean I need to cut the calories more. I need to do way more exercise. I need to eat weight. Like, no, like trust in the process. The process typically works. There are rare occasions it doesn't when there's underlying stuff, but the process typically works. And yes, it's not as simple as just move more, eat less. What you're moving, how you're moving, what you're eating, how much, when, etc., all makes a difference. But in our case, the blood sugars, you have these muscles trained for your diabetes. Utilize them for weight loss as well. You will be very happy that you did. And I actually think arguably that puts us at an advantage as people with diabetes because people without, they're not used to that. But for us, we're used to, hey, we've got to balance this. We've got to stay on this tightrope. We've got to make sure that our numbers are on point. Our food's taken care of. Everything's the way it's supposed to be to keep our blood sugars happy. This weight is just one little extra piece of the equation versus for other people, this is all that they are focusing on. They don't have that infrastructure that's already built. So when people always talk about how to use diabetes to your advantage, this is one great way. You have a bunch of skills that you don't even realize you have. Utilize them. Now, if you're out here rage bolusing left and right and over treating lows, you may not have those skills developed yet. But once you do, it will help you when it comes to dropping weight as well. So these are a few things to kind of intro it. Of course, I can do another episode on weight loss, can bring other people in, have a really, really interesting conversation about it. But I hope this helps you get started for 2026. Let me know what topics you want me to discuss. If you want me to do another episode on this, holler at me on social media at Your Diabetes Insider. Check the handle. It's awesome. Or if you're like, hey, I need that support. I want to drop the weight with great blood sugars. I want people that get it truly to the core. Like I mentioned earlier, my team and I, all dietitians, all of exercise backgrounds, we all have the beat ourselves. We get it personally, we get it professionally, and we would love to be able to support you. So yourdiabetesinsider.com. If you're loving the podcast, would appreciate if you gave an amazing review. It would mean the world to me on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. And with that, I will catch you in the next episode.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.